Welcome back to the CriblCon 25 CriblCast news desk. I've got a great person to talk with today, Christopher Ebley from Blackwood. He is the CTO. So what's been the vibe so far at CriblCon?
I mean, so far this has been awesome, right? Like getting a chance to sit in the keynote this morning, get a feel for where the direction of the company's going. I think they're hitting the right notes, right? In terms of like, given the nature of where Cribl sits in the ecosystem, being very tuned into the directions our customers are going has been huge. And so it's refreshing when you see, hey, this is what we're releasing. These are the roadmaps are. We're very aware of kind of the need for data, not just in terms of growth and things that we've known for a long time, but just need to present this in a totally different way. In relatively short order, we've gone from like give commoditized cheap options to customers because it's cheap to now like, hey, there's this AI monkey on our backs that we need to be able to feed and it needs to be performing again, and how do we strategize around that and give flexibility? And I think they're answering the mail on all the right sides. So I mean, so far it's been awesome. Yeah.
Well, Cribl's really been channel first, partner first from day one.
Correct.
And we love our partners, and because you all had those deep relationships with your customers already, and they trust you, and we love to come alongside and solve problems together. How has our relationship with Blackwood and Cribl evolved in the public sector over the recent years? Because there's just a lot of cybersecurity challenges, and for not just the federal government, but state, local, education. It's a massive problem. How has that relationship evolved with us over time?
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, the Cribl specifically as a technologist and a company is really refreshing to us because it enables us to take a very consultative approach to things. And what I mean by that is like, while there's a lot of strong tech, if I'm thinking EDR, it's a finite market in the sense of like we're talking endpoint security in that capacity. By definition, it's a one-to-one thing. Cribl's getting into way more of a like, what are we trying to accomplish? What makes you as a customer unique? What does your data look like? Both in terms of what am I trying to source? Where am I trying to send this? What are the problems you have today? For everyone, obviously, money is always a big factor there, but there's a ton of other logistics. There's a ton of other factors and needs from those types of things, and it's really empowering for us to be able to be flexible. Specific to the public sector, they're always an interesting piece because one, like within any given account, right? When we talk about like some of our DoD customers, they will represent every concern that you would have across multiple different divisions of the private sector. You will have bases that have medical institutions, that have tons of OT technology, that will have their own grids, that obviously have like considerations for classified and unclassified spaces, as well as traditional IT corporate use cases and things like that, all in one thing, and the charter to manage all of those, and then have like additional kind of prescribed mandates that sit over top of that, just become a lot. You're having to juggle a lot of different components. And so for us, from a cyber standpoint, it's like you need to do everything you normally do for cyber and have consideration for all these other components that sit under kind of underneath of just like your purview. So for the public sector, that's been an ever-evolving thing, and there have been very specific kind of points in time when the federal government has come in, almost in an overlay fashion, said, thou shalt keep 3 years worth of data is now your new standard for retention. Thou shalt keep all of these other data sets, regardless of whether that's actually compatible with your strategy. And so having to accommodate those types of things alongside, call it the day job of I need to actually analyze the data that matters to me and feed the right solutions and tools where that matters to me. That's kind of the juggling that we're dealing with, right?
Well, and certainly if those new mandates have a cost component, and if you're not getting additional budget to handle that, you've got to get smarter and you've got to get creative. And I think that's where that customer-centered approach, like consultative approach, like, okay, let's step back. What's the problem we're solving here, and how do we do it together?
Yeah.
I think that is critical. What in terms of the SIEM market, telemetry tooling, what are you seeing across the federal government? What do you think the trends are over the next couple of years?
The SIEM market's really interesting right now. Like it's one we're like very, very heavily vested in. We have Blackwood ourselves we cut our teeth and have grown hugely in security operations. Like that's been a huge part of our business. And so in turn, like SIEM's interesting because in relatively short order, we've evolved from just, can I put all my data in one place and ask a question of things, where that was the value proposition, to now when you look at, choose your framework, but all the like MITRE ATT&CK and all the different techniques and tactics that sit beyond that, it's like you have to look for all these things. But the reality of it is SIEM's interesting because there's this massive evolution in the vendor space that's trying to shift a lot of the development and the detection engineering burden away from the user, because transparently a lot of the legacy solutions that had huge amounts of value and solved for a lot of the legacy problems have not kept up with simple things like detection engineering. And so you hand a legacy approach to something to a customer, and the first thing I have to do is I have to go build the exact same things you have to go build. And that holds for the third customer and the fourth customer. And so there's a real appetite for a lot of these security forward vendors to lean into these markets, to take some of the things like log management in a whole, which is commoditized and should be, and then being able to overlay that with content that is actionable, because you and I are not running different versions of Mac OS.
Right.
You know what I mean? The threats to your endpoint are the same things that are considered instance for my endpoint. So having that be a vendor that authoritatively can speak to that and give you that content, and then on to the next and the next and the next, and overlay things like threat hunting capability, automation capabilities, getting into like the user and behavior analytic capabilities over top of that, embedding in like a lot of like kind of like the AI machine learning based analytics to do consolidation and correlate, all those things in one spot is the direction this needs to go. But I think it required vendors to lean in that historically hadn't in these particular spaces, because just with all things, there's a lot of tech debt in the way things had been handled from a legacy standpoint, and we're seeing a lot of that evolution. And so realistically, the end result is that it's new. Customers are looking for new. They're looking for the next SIEM to solve their problems that exist today, understanding that the answer can't be infinite amounts of full-time engineers and services, and we're just going to build this, and you have this like custom fragile thing. Like that's not a sustainable promise to give a customer. And so that's what we're seeing. And so the reality of it is that you have this need to feed data now to new destinations, to new places, and that capture needs to happen immediately.
Well, you know what the best SIEM is? Your next one. It's with any tooling is the one you don't have.
Yeah,
it's the one that solves the problem.
Yeah.
But I think you make up a good point with legacy solutions. I mean, the data growth is not slowing down in the slightest.
No.
And I think too, when you see some of the announcements that Cribl made today about baking AI heavily in every one of its products, it's allowing you to take engineers, maybe junior engineers, and up-level their skill set quickly. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges the industry have is we don't have enough trained people.
Right.
I don't know where we're going to get them. And figuring out how to train them cost effectively is a challenge. So I'm really excited about some of the new technologies we've coming out that can, because the truth is the threat actors, they're using all of these next generation tools.
Yep.
So the security vendors have to adopt them plus more to help their customers.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, and then the thing in the AI market, I mean, this is another area that's almost like related to, but you see independent investments in applications of AI for security operations, like in a literal sense, taking agentic approaches to your tier 1, tier 2 motions. And I think that's something I'm very bullish on. I think that's very real, in being able to sit there and say, like, listen, if here are your runbooks and here are the things you go ask, it's like, allow a machine to do this for you. Mm-hmm. Allow you to respond to more, to turn on things. So that's the problem, is like right now, a lot of our customers are effectively paralyzed. They don't, like, getting all the data they need to be able to do the analytic period is kind of prohibitive, right? In a lot of these, like, not like the current states for where they sit. The ability to build even the content beyond that, but even if you were able to succeed there, you can't react to all the alerts you just turned on in excess, to your point, against a security operations center that's probably lacking in human capital and potentially lacking in skill set. And so being able to apply AI to those use cases is something I think it's one of the few, like, this actually makes a lot of sense as a very real use case for this, but the same idea. That AI is only as good as the data it's fed. That data needs to be clean. The AI standards haven't changed, right? Like, you need to be able to deliver this thing in a repeatable fashion, and so that when that thing goes in queries and you ask the question of like, hey, do we see anything that matches this command and control across the rest of our environment? And it comes back and says, hey, no, you're good to go. It's because you presented all the data and you're really good to go. Not because things are missing or you have hygiene problems or something didn't parse correctly or all the problem sets that come with that. So yeah, I think like the reality is I don't think there's a single innovation that exists within technology today that is yielding less of a demand for data. Like that, they are coupled. Everything is attached at the hip at this point, right?
Well, and you're seeing, not only is data growing, but I think environments are getting more complex. I mean, when the market was, you take data and you funnel it into your SIEM. The SIEM was like almost like an accidental archive. Yep. And when growth was much less, it makes sense. Like, just put it there and we'll search. Well, now it doesn't work. It doesn't work from a cost perspective, and it's prohibitive from I need to find data. Just more alerts is not better.
Yep.
More data is not better. You have to have the right data in the right formats at the right places with the right engineers that can look at it.
Yep.
And that's not the easiest thing in the world. And really, we talk a lot of like, what got you to 2025 is not getting you to 2035, and we're going to have to, kind of solve that tech debt problem.
Yep.
From a very first principles perspective. And I think Cribl is well positioned to do that. And I love our vendor neutral approach. We love to work with everybody. We recognize that our customers have a variety of tools.
Sure.
And we love working with a variety of vendors to make our customers' lives better, help them run their business better. Are you okay if I ask a question about FedRAMP In Process?
Please.
Okay.
Yep.
Recently, Cribl announced that we've been awarded FedRAMP In Process. What does that mean for your customers in the public sector?
So in a literal sense, it opens up a lot of our go-to-market capabilities, right? So Blackwood as a firm does about 65% of our businesses in the US public sector. And so FedRAMP represents a bunch of things. Obviously for the customer, it represents a level of confidence and the ability to go contractually execute on leveraging that product, the ability to put data at certain criticality levels, from like a FISMA rating standpoint into those particular environments. So there's the ability to say yes, but it also yields a level of maturity and confidence in the actual company beyond the product, right? And so it's like having the fact that the companies have chosen to partner with the federal government, have chosen to proceed in validating these particular controls, to be able to attest to the fact that they are taking the security internally very seriously and giving the federal customer the ability to move forward is massive. So like as far as those capability sets are huge. Because the other thing too is like, the federal government does a lot of powerful things and they support a lot of amazing use cases, but there are factors where because of how critical that is, there's imposed security standards that exist there that exist nowhere else. And so for us, one of the things that it's almost like historically been frustrating is when the world of technology yields an outcome that is not accessible to the federal government because of the lack of maturity as it pertains to the security controls and the validations there. So having that ability to sit there and say, hey, yes, you're good to go. Let's turn this thing on. Everything that we're promising you here in the commercial space that you've seen that you want to take advantage of, you're now good to go on and execute on is huge. It's a massive win.
And that's also validation for the commercial customers to be able to know. I mean, even if you're not in a federal environment, you've never been disappointed when one of your existing vendors was awarded FedRAMP in process because you're like, okay, well again, they are taking it seriously. It's been validated externally, and that's a really hard process. I mean, our teams went through. I was just glad I didn't have to be involved because that seemed like I don't know when they slept. That was a massive feat. When you really look at like how many vendors have gotten this far in the FedRAMP process, it's a small list.
Yep.
And we love being able to come alongside companies like Blackwood to accelerate your go-to-market, help more customers for you all, and really everybody wins because this is not about just. We obviously want to grow our business. We want to help our customers avoid breaches, be smarter, work faster, control costs. It's all of that together, and we do that. We partner together, and we win with the customer, and we help them out. So last question, I'll let you go. What are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to for the rest of the event? I mean, what's been your highlight so far? What are you looking forward to?
I mean, there's a couple of different parts to that. I mean, the sessions look amazing, like especially getting into talking about like the practical applications of data, like sitting in some of the stuff, just talk to like OCSF as like as a schema framework and be like, hey, here's what real world applications of this look like. Here are our lessons learned, because at the end of the day, when there's always that delta that exists between the idea of a thing and then the practical like application of that thing. And I think Cribl sits in that world of reality where it's able to deliver on the practical, not just like the conceptual where there's 1,000 asterisks and legal kind of disclaimers at the bottom that says like, assuming, the sun is red tomorrow, you'll be good to go type thing. It's like, no, we have real ability to move off of that. And outside of that's the people. I mean, we've known so many people at Cribl and the partners here like for a long time. So getting an opportunity to be, with a bunch of familiar faces and catch up, it's awesome. So
well, I think that's really what makes Cribl so special. We've said in other videos and other interviews that, Clint, our CEO, also software is a people business. And it's good when you see the same engineers. We have our product people here. You can come and they can talk to you about how we're solving problems. We have UX researchers here. We're trying to make it easier to use. We genuinely are somewhat obsessed with our customers, and our roadmap is dictated by problems they're having and how we can help solve them. We may always solve it in a unique way, hopefully a better way, but we're a company full of people who want to sell it, and we want to be very close to our customers. We mentioned in previous interviews that we have a Cribl Slack community. If you post a feature request in there, you may have somebody knock at your door an hour later from the product teams. What was that about?
Oh, yeah, we've been there. Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more. And that's how we're not just over here building things because we think our customers should use them. We're talking to them daily, and that's pretty unique. It's a people business, and so we're excited. We're excited to continue to work with you all, and you all do such a great job helping our joint customers, and we're thankful you're here.
We appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for tuning in to the CriblCon 25 CriblCast News Desk. Again, you can learn more about Blackwood at blackwood.ai. We're thankful they're here, and we'll check with everybody next time.